This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Monday night, May the 5th, 2025. This is the Start Spreading the News Yankee Show. But we're going to begin tonight with some sad news. John McGrath, the man who thought up the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, there would be no programs on the network. There would be no Start Spreading the News or the Dr. Sem Show or any of the other dozens of programs without Mac's great vision, insight, and welcoming approach. The great John McGrath, though, passed away just 2 days ago on Saturday. And so I wanted to begin tonight's show by remembering Mac, a man, as I say, who was a visionary. But more than that, he was a good and decent and kind, and I dare say wonderful person. You know, it's an interesting world doing podcasts with people states away. I did the Mac and Jack show with Mac and Jack Hirsch for years. I would show up every Saturday morning, and my slot originally began sort of as a Stump Dr. Sem, a quick 10 or 15 minute segment. That soon became, can you stay for a half an hour? That soon became, can you do the whole Saturday show with us, which for a long time was a 2-hour program. And I got a chance through all that to know Mac. And there wasn't a Saturday morning ever where he wasn't kind and welcoming and energetic and happy and just thrilled to see me and to be part of the program and to be part of this growing network. Mac had read my novel, Scattering the Ashes. This is how we originally met. And then he reached out to me and said, would you come on a podcast? And I figured it was a one-shot deal, like most podcast visits. But then he encouraged me, as I said, to come back and back again and again. And then I became a regular for years. And at one time when Mac was sick, I produced the show for many, many months, if not for a year. And it was just a great joy. And over the years, Mac said, hey, Paul, I think you need to have a program of your own. Why don't you make a show on Monday nights? And I said, could we have my great friend E.J. Fagan be part of it? And he said, yes, of course. And that's where this program came from. And then he said, why don't you do another one? And so that's where I have my half-hour Saturday morning show that airs every Saturday at from 7 to 7:30. But like I said, when you meet people on the internet in situations like that, you don't often get to meet them in person. EJ and I have been doing this show for years. I began Start Spreading the News when I took over EJ's old site, It's About the Money. That was in 2017. We've never met. We've only met via the computer. It's an amazing thing. But I had 2 instances where I did get a chance to spend quality time with Mac and his wonderful wife, Linda. The first time was after the book, Roy White's autobiography, From Compton to the Bronx, after that was published. Quick backstory, it was Mac who introduced me indirectly, but he got Roy White's phone number so that I could contact Roy White to write the book with him. It was Mac who set that up. There would have been no Roy White in my life. There would have been no From Compton to the Bronx without Mac. And I was driving through Connecticut, and I said to Mac, "Where are you in Connecticut? I'm going to stop by and say hi." And so I did. And I spent some time at Mac's place with Mac and Linda, and it was great. And like all things in life, you just wish there was more time. Then about a year or so later, Mac, Jack, Linda, I believe Linda's sister, and I had a chance to go to a preseason Jets-Giants game in the Meadowlands. And so we got to spend a wonderful day at the park, the football park. And again, when it ended, we just had so much fun. It was great. I said to myself, I'm so lucky to have these friends. And I reached out to Mac and I said, next time we're going to a Yankee game. Let's make it happen. And of course, life is too short, and it didn't happen. And for that, I am sad, and I wish we had had a chance to go to a Yankee game. But, I guess you can't do everything, and I guess life goes on. But when it does, that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't go on without some sadness. And so it is with sadness that I share the news that Mac McGrath has passed. And I wish his wife, Linda, all the peace and comfort in the world. And I'm sure that God has opened up the gates right away to Mac to let him in, because he belongs in heaven with those who went before him, who he loves. And one day I hope to see him again up in heaven. But for now, we'll carry on and just have a little bit of emptiness in our hearts because Mac McGrath is no longer with us. Mac, you were a great friend and a great man, and I'm going to miss you tremendously. All right, my friends, at this point, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my other friend, who I've never met in person, the great EJ Fagan. Hi, EJ.
Hey, Paul, I got some news for you. I'm coming to New Jersey this weekend.
Are you really?
Yeah, I haven't been back in a while, but they were coming for Mother's Day. I'm only in for 2.5 days, but we should talk.
We should talk because you are going to be in the wonderful town of Ramsey, I believe.
Yep.
All right, and I'm going to be in the wonderful town of Wyckoff. And for those people who do not know, Wyckoff and Ramsey, I don't know if they touch anywhere because there's that little sliver of Mawa, but basically they're border towns.
Old Dutch towns in the old Dutch colony of New Jersey.
That is correct. So we ought to do something to try to make sure we get together. Maybe we'll get Andy Singer. I've been trying to hook up with Andy Singer for pizza, and we just can't seem to make it work.
Andy's got a young kid. I got my young kid. We'll make it happen.
All right. I'd love to meet EJ, the fourth.
Yeah, EJ 5.
The fifth.
5. Yeah.
You're the fourth. Oh, my goodness. All right, EJ. So, yes, let's do that. That would be fun. All right. So the Yankee game tonight has been postponed, or it's in a delay right now. But Carlos Rodon has given the Yankees 4 terrific innings, a bloop pop-up. I was only listening on the radio at that point, getting the show ready. But that fell between a couple of players. It should have been an out. And one other hit.
He's been dominant tonight. It's been a great night tonight.
Now that's as without looking it up, that's his third very good start in a row. No.
Yeah, and again, arguably some of the bad starts. And Aaron Boone's actually said this. Sackhouse thinks he got pretty unlucky, and so I think all's go with Rodon. My only concern is that I wonder if he'll be able to come back after the long rain delay. It would hurt to only get 4 innings out of him because the Yankees need innings out of their starters right now, and to lose a third of a Rodon start to rain is going to be kind of rough. But he's been great. The Padres are no joke of a lineup.
Yeah, they're the best team in
he's
baseball.
Been sailing through it. They've been great, yeah. And they've been badly injured, and they've been great. I mean, this is a powerhouse of a club right now. But Rodon's really handled them. So fingers crossed. I think we can be pretty comfortable with Rodon right now. and kind of treat him like that number 2 starter that you hired him for.
Right. I mean, how many starts does a guy have to have where he's really dominant before you say, yeah, no, he's the real deal now?
Yeah, look, when we think about how do you adjust your expectations mathematically, there's ways to think about this. And the idea is basically more information allows you to make bigger adjustments. And last year, Rodon had a weird year. So his overall numbers weren't great. He was a 42 percentile xERA last year. So very average. But he had a weird, kind of a weird cadence to his season. So he started off, he was getting hit really hard and wasn't striking a ton of guys out, was walking a lot of guys, and was kind of getting lucky. He didn't allow a lot of runs in April and May last year. That caught up to him in June. And something happened. He made an adjustment. And the only thing that output wise that changed with this adjustment, I think he stopped throwing some of his like cutter to righties or something. The only thing that really changed output wise was that he started striking out a ton more guys. I think he had the best strikeout rate in baseball, or second best, something like that, among starters after July 1st. And then he carried that into this season. And my initial reaction was, okay, so you get second half Rodon, which was like a good pitcher, well above average, but not like an elite pitcher by any means. And I think we saw the limitations of that in the playoffs when he also kept getting hit hard, and then, just not enough strikeouts to really, consistently pitch well. This season, he's basically done all of that. And the only thing that's changed is he went from being an extreme fly ball pitcher to being a really strong ground ball pitcher. So he still gets hit hard, is striking out still an elite number of batters, still doesn't have, let me look at his control. His control is still pretty bad. But turning a lot of, instead of fly balls, it's ground balls. And that's a huge difference, especially with the Yankees defense. It's pretty impressive. I think this is the pitcher that you signed him for. It's really the first time we've ever seen it. And I feel confident in him right now. Just these are not bad lineups he's mowing through, and he's doing it in a convincing fashion. I mean, he's been just absolutely dominant, and even the control has been good over these last few starts. It was bad to start the season, but he's got that back. So I'm saying Carlos Rodon. I think he's up there with Max Fried right now. I really think that he's pretty special.
Right. He has been, and it's a delight. And that has been, boy, did the Yankees need something, because the starting rotation is just not good after Max Fried. But now that Carlos Rodon seems to have put it together, all of a sudden you're saying, all right, well, that's 40% of a starting staff. That's
just get one more guy, like one guy who you can replace Carrasco or Warren with somebody who could just hack it, right? Like not, someone who could fake a 4.5 ERA, and it would just feel so much better. The problem is that the other three have an ERA over 6.
Mm-hmm.
Schmidt, I think, has looked a little better, and he gets a little bit of a pass because he's basically was doing rehab starts in the majors, and has more of a track record, and so I think Schmidt will be fine. But those other two guys are just throwing ball games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what you do about it. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm ready to say just call up random AAA guys and just see if someone can fake a 4.5, 4.8 ERA, whatever, right? Just someone who can do something in the majors. Because right now, especially Will Warren, is just not working.
And Carrasco's not working either. And
Yeah.
it's just silly to keep going to a well that's, with Rodon, you at least know that he's a talented pitcher, and he just wasn't putting it together. But Carrasco hasn't been good since, I think, 1844. I think he pitched really well in that first game at the Elysian Fields when the New York Knickerbockers played, I don't know, the New York 9 or whatever it was. I think he did well that day. And ever since then, it's been a long, long, long road.
Yeah, and look, I wish Marcus Stroman was that guy, but he's not. I mean, we're talking about guys, 3 guys with ERAs over 5.5, and Carrasco's almost 6. Once you get that high, we're below replacement level. That means that the typical AAA call up in the middle of the season is better than you. And the Yankees just have to pick one of those guys and see if they can do something with them. Or pitch Brian Yarbrough.
First time. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean
it happens all the time. You bring a kid up and all of a sudden, he's actually okay.
And they don't have to be great, right? Okay is what you're looking for right now, and that keeps you in ball games because you have the best offense in the majors. I also, again, I think Ryan Yarbrough, when he made that spot start for Schmidt, looked pretty good. Maybe Yarbrough's that guy. I think we're at the point where we can say it's not working. It really hurt to lose Yoendris Gomez. They lost Gomez to waivers. And he wasn't good in the majors. Like, he wasn't allowing runs, but he had a terrible walk rate and all that. So like, I think I don't think he was any good, but he'd be your next guy you give a try. And then you go look, you got guys like Alan Winans and all that. And again, if your expectations are low, these guys could be an improvement. And I think they gotta pull the trigger soon. I think Warren, you can option down. And maybe we're at the point where we do a Luke Weaver with Warren and we convert him to the bullpen, because I just don't think it's working as a starter for him.
I don't disagree. Yes, good strikeout stuff. He struck out 8 the other night. Didn't make it through the 5th inning, or the other day, yesterday, I guess.
Terrible control. Just awful control. Right? Like, he just has this. He's working on the edge of the zone. Batters aren't really fooled by his, or rather, batters don't. The batters will just sit there and kind of wait for something in the middle of the zone. I don't know. Like, I think that there's a lot of pitchers whose stuff just doesn't translate to the majors from AAA, and I think unfortunately Warren's one of those guys. And frankly, his AAA numbers aren't that great either.
I'd noted that before the season, that he was good and hasn't had much success above AA. Let's move on to a different topic, because it comes up with the idea that the Yankees are going to try to get this game in. Instead of saying what's your opinion, I'll just give my opinion to start. I'm not a big fan of this. You have to play every team in the National League schedule. Every team either go there once or they come here once, because you end up in situations like this. There's no time to have a makeup game, and the weather's supposed to be bad for 3 days. Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. This is the only time the Padres are coming into town. And so the Yankees and the Padres have this obligation almost to get these games in when they shouldn't be playing. And instead you just say, hey, it's a rain out. We'll do a doubleheader when you come back to town, like you would normally do when you played basically the teams in your division and in your league. And I just think they keep,
they have an off day on Thursday, right? I mean, I guess the Yankees don't want to travel. They're traveling to the West Coast, so I guess they don't want to use that off day, but they have the off day. I don't know. I think that this kind of scheduling thing is inevitable, because remember, even though you're talking about the National League, if this was the Angels instead of the Padres, you'd still have the same problem.
But you have the problem only because there was a time, I believe, when teams would come in more than once during the course of a season. There'd be another chance for them to come into town. No,
yeah, but it wasn't like, I think it was 3. Yeah, it's been for a while. 3 games home, 3 games away against other American League teams, right? So you still have like a problem that you have the Angels only making 1 trip to New York. I don't know. I think the problem is they just jam too many games into the schedule. I think you add a couple more single admission doubleheaders, you add some off days, then the Padres could fly in and try to make up that day. When the Yankees and Padres have an off day in September or something. But it just doesn't. You don't have any flexibility left in the schedule because you're trying to jam too many games in.
I think you made a good point with Wednesday or Thursday being an open day. But the Yankees don't want to play that day because they have to travel to the West Coast. So maybe if you have to play National League teams, and if National League teams have to play American League teams, maybe the teams on the far coast don't necessarily play each other. Because if the Yankees had to make up a series with the Phillies, you could do that. It's not going to be all that cumbersome for the Philadelphia Phillies to come into New York or for the Yankees to go down to Philly. But to get the Padres here, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that you're never really going to solve the East West Coast problem. Because baseball, you play so many games, you have so few off days, you have all this travel that you need to do. you're gonna play the West Coast eventually, right? So you're gonna run to this
You
problem.
you don't have to play the Dodgers. You don't have to play the Padres. My point is this.
Yeah, but if you play the Athletics or the Mariners or the Angels, it's the same problem. You could have
exacerbating because there's more teams.
I mean, you could have East and West divisions, but then you have, the center of baseball is not the center of the country, right? So you end up with
the problem is that they expanded west past St. Louis in 1958. They should have never done it.
Well, you're the one complaining about Carlos Carrasco being too old there. Look, I think I think that there's no solution to this other than play less games. And I know that there's a little bit of money involved, but if you played 150 games rather than 162 games, I don't think anybody would be hurt. I don't think we would notice that there's quote unquote less baseball, except that you would have 8 more off days throughout the year. I think players would be healthier. I think they'd be happier. You could just hear the grind is rough. And I think you could solve a lot of these travel problems that really are an issue. I mean, I can't imagine trying to play at a high level after a day after flying from New York to Sacramento. I mean, that's rough.
I agree. I would not mind if they went back to 154. All right, let's move on. I would like to say that the Yankees are doing a terrible job with Jason Dominguez because they keep sitting him. I'd like to say that. He should have started tonight. But Trent Grisham has been so hot, and he hit another home run, his 9th of the year already. I want Dominguez to play, but I think right now it's kind of difficult to get him in. I think Cody Bellinger deserves a little more time before you say you're benched in favor of a rookie. So what's your
Bellinger's been better over the last couple of weeks too. Look, I think that there's not a good solution here, right? So you could bench Goldschmidt and have Ben Rice play first base. I think against righties, it's not a bad option. But Goldschmidt's also hitting really well and has started to hit for power again. And so maybe you want to keep Goldschmidt in. Rice, you don't want to bench, right? He has a double tonight. Rice has been good. His OPS is back down to earth to like 900, but that's still incredible in modern baseball. Cody Bellinger, again, I think he's been a little better lately. The numbers are not that different from Dominguez on the year. Probably a little bit better defensively. And you have this kind of lefty-righty problem with Dominguez. So if I were in charge, I'd probably be playing Dominguez at least against every righty. But right now, because with where your injuries are, you have not enough infielders and kind of too many first base DH outfielders. So there's not really a good option. You're not going to sit Judge. And
how do you sit Trent Grisham right now?
You can't. Absolutely not. Trent Grisham is your best batter at the moment, other than Judge. I mean, he's been incredible, and I wonder what Grisham would have done last year had Alex Verdugo not played as much as he did. To me, it's starting to look a little ridiculous that Verdugo had as much rope as Aaron Boone gave him, and Grisham was on the bench as much as he was. Or maybe Grisham just made an adjustment. That's also possible, right? That this is a different,
and
different Trent Grisham.
Never hit before, so I get the point. But that might be a Monday morning quarterback thing.
Either way, it's great, and I think him batting leadoff makes sense. Him playing every game makes sense. I think his defense is a little bit overrated, frankly. I don't know.
I said that
he's not that fast out there. I'm sure he takes great routes to the ball and like whatever, but like he's, I think he's probably an upgrade over some of the other guys, but I hated Boone using him as a defensive replacement late in games in the early part of the season. But yeah, Grisham's great, and ride the hot streak, right? I don't know how long the hot streak's going to last, but it's clearly still there. And so no reason not to keep going. And I believe the game has resumed.
Oh, the game has resumed, huh?
It looks like Trent Grisham has walked.
The man just can't get him out. So does that load the bases?
No, it's top of the inning, beginning of the inning. So Trent Grisham is on first with nobody out, and Aaron Judge is at the plate.
All right, so they called the game at the end of the top of the fifth or at the end of the top of the fourth? Where are we now? Bottom four?
It's not bottom five.
All right. If they get this half inning in, they don't have to. No, the game, it's
Yeah,
gone 4.5 innings.
It'd be an official game. The Yankees are winning. I'm sure that they'll wait a long time. Miserable day at the ballpark. But I mean, they're playing now, so I have no idea what the weather forecast is like in their products, but maybe we're good to finish this game out.
Wow, but even if they don't, it's an official game.
Yep.
And Rodon pitched all 5.
So Rodon, yeah, I guess he must have pitched a real quick inning while we were talking. So yeah, he's now 5 innings pitched, 72 pitches. He's got some time left in him. 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, he's got at least 1 more inning, maybe 2 left in him. 2 would be wonderful. With a 2-0 lead, right? Then you can just go whatever, Fernando Cruz, Luke Weaver, and you're done.
Or it rains and the game's over and you save the bullpen.
Yeah, really.
Right. I'm not opposed to that. All right. So if a man or a woman, a person came up to you on the street and they look normal, in fact, they were wearing the clothing of a fan or a sports writer. Maybe they had an ESPN badge and it wasn't fake, or Fox Sports or Yes Network. A normal person approaches you on the street, immediately gives their bona fides, whatever. They give their credentials. And just by talking to them, they're not a crazy person. And they say to you, you have a little bit of banter back and forth. You throw some stats, they throw some stats. You say, WOBA and OPS plus and WAR, and they can carry on a normal conversation. And then they say to you, the MVP of the American League is Max Fried. What do you say?
Yeah, no. Aaron Judge is having one of the best seasons of all time. He's in a 2-game slump, quote unquote, going like 0 for 6, and he's batting .417 still. I mean, generally speaking, when we think about pitchers, I think they're not half of the game, right? Half the game is offense, half the game is defense, but half of the game is not pitching. Defense is a shared responsibility. It's pitchers and it's fielders. And the fielders get some of the credit, less than pitchers, but they get a lot of the credit. And so even your best pitchers are usually not going to be as good as your best position players. Aaron Judge is a really good defender, so he contributes a lot there. In fact, he's back to elite defense in right field this year. And he's the best hitter of all time. There's worlds where your best player could be a pitcher, but not on Aaron Judge's team. That's not how this works. So no. And this because Aaron Judge was the same age as Max Fried and got paid considerably more. That's common. The highest paid pitchers are nowhere near the highest paid position players. And that's because they're not as good.
And it's because like a starting pitcher only pitches once every 5 games and Judge plays 5 out of 5 games.
Well, I mean, a starting pitcher will pitch more than 800 plate appearances, or can pitch more than 800 plate appearances over the course of a season. So they actually do. A starter who pitches 200 plus innings is putting up a comparable workload. But they don't play defense. That's the difference. Or they play worse defense, or not as important defense. Whereas Aaron Judge is out there playing defense, helping all the other pitchers not score runs and going to the plate and doing that other half of the game. So yeah, it is tough for a pitcher to put up a big win, like an MVP worthy season. We kind of think of the MVP as the hitter's award. Part of that's because there's no
pitchers win it sometimes.
They do, and they usually don't deserve it. Because they're just not as good as hitters. Now there's exceptions, and we've had pitchers have 10 plus win seasons, but that's rare. And it is not rare for a hitter to put up an 8+ win season, which is better than almost every pitcher in any given year. Like if we're lucky, Max Fried will be a 6-win pitcher this year. That'd be incredible.
Right. What if Max Fried ends up copying Guidry in 1978, and his final numbers are 25-3, 1.74.
Well, Guidry in that year had,
did not win the MVP.
But he led the league in wins above replacement with a 9.6 WAR. He also pitched 273 innings, and that's different, right? Max Fried's not going to
228 strikeouts. Is that right?
248 strikeouts.
Oh,
When you're pitching 273 innings, that changes the calculus a little bit. Now you're playing way more than the hitters play. You're seeing way more plate appearances than the hitters do. But when you're pitching 200 innings and then you're relying on a bunch of relievers to finish the games for you, it's just a different calculus. Like you're just not as valuable, which is, it's okay. Like that's normal. It's why the pitchers have their own little award. And then, the MVP award will go to the most valuable player who's going to be Aaron Judge. And Aaron Judge is going to win it. He has been worth more than 3 wins already, on pace for a 14-win season, I believe, at the moment.
14 point something. The other day I was doing the stats. It was like 14.8.
Just absolutely nuts. He's already been worth the giant contract. Like it's incredible. I mean, the fact watching Judge for a while comfortably hit 430. I mean, it's insane. And now again, he's in a little bit of a slump, and he's going to come out of it. He's going to hit a bunch. So,
well, he had a double yesterday too. I think he's hitting 10 games in a row. And
right. That's why I'm using slump, right? Like every once in a while, Aaron Boone is asked about like Judge's like going through a slow period. He's like, guys, what are you talking about? He's had 4 games that he hasn't hit a home run in 4 games. You'll be fine, guys. Shut up. That's, I mean, look, it's a pleasure to watch. And, it's weird to watch history as it's unfolding, and to know that you're watching something that's going to be talked about for a very long time. And I think that Aaron Judge's peak is going to be talked about the way we talk about like legends of baseball. And the fact that Aaron Judge is a unique human being is also part of that. Just that he's a massive person. He's a New York Yankee, right? Like he has these other qualities that are going to increase his legend. And he doesn't need it because he's already that good.
One thing that he would very much help his legend would be a trophy.
Yes. I would like that too. But something, I mean, look, he didn't hit well in the playoffs, so it's not like it's completely out of his control. But he is not the problem. He cannot pitch the ball for Carlos Carrasco. And the Yankees could use that right now. Can use some non-Judge talent at the moment.
Assuming Aaron Judge and the Yankees never win a World Series, is Aaron Judge the modern day equivalent of the Greek hero Achilles, who had that? Obviously the Achilles heel.
Won.
What's that?
I mean, he died. They won the war.
But he did die because he got stabbed in the back of it, right? That's the only part of his body that was vulnerable. And
I'm not sure that this is the right Greek myth. I mean, he's more of a Hector than an Achilles, I guess.
Rock up the hill?
I mean, no. I think the rock's up the hill. I think he's succeeded much. I think he's Atlas holding up the world. If that makes sense. Okay, if we want to pick a Greek myth, that's what I'm going with.
Just like he just hasn't been able to help the Yankees at whatever reason. Let's hope they change that this year. So one guy the Yankees are counting on a ton, who to me has been very unimpressive, has been Jazz Chisholm. He had like 700 hits the first weekend, and since then I think he's hitting like 120. I'm exaggerating for effect, but it's not much better. It's been under 200, and now he's hurt. What's your thoughts on Chisholm?
Yeah, the loss is gonna hurt. You're right that his batting average has been bad, and frankly, he looks like he swings at everything, and that's not fun to watch sometimes. But he takes his walks, he hits for power. He's got a 714 OPS, an above average hitter, all told. And I think that the batting average would have come around eventually. And on top of that, he's just been a stellar defender. I mean, just really fantastic defender. I think that pretty much there's no player that hurts the Yankees more other than Aaron Judge getting hurt, because they don't have a replacement. Yorvit Vivas, I don't think is any good. We'll see. He's going to get some playing time. Maybe you could platoon him with Peraza and get something. But you're opening up a weak spot in the lineup as long as Jazz is out. Now, Jazz is a guy who's got injury history. Has had a lot of these kind of soft body injuries over a long time. And so this kind of comes to the territory with Jazz Chisholm, is one of the reasons why he was tradable, why the Yankees were able to get him. So maybe he gets a reset. comes back, stops swinging at everything. I don't know, but I am. It's going to hurt for a while, and I hope he's back quickly.
All right, so let's talk about the future. The Yankees have a young shortstop who now has jumped up to Double-A. Is George Lombard a possibility to replace Anthony Volpe, or is George Lombard Jr. the new third baseman of the future? What do you see for him, and how quickly will he progress through the minors?
Yeah, so let's talk about him for a little bit and talk about what his future could be. So Lombard Jr. was a first-round pick 2 years ago, I believe. Yes, he was a 2023 first-round pick. And he's the son of a major league player, major league coach, George Lombard. He was a normal first-round pick. You know, the Yankees do well when they kind of just pick the guy that Baseball America says should be like the 23rd overall pick, and that's who they pick. They do poorly when they pick someone else, though there's one player that they picked recently that they kind of went off the board for that might be working out for them, so we can talk about that. That's too.
Ben Rice?
No, that Ben Rice was just was a later round pick. Ben Hess, who basically everybody hated that pick when the Yankees made it, and he's off to a very good start and is throwing 98 and looking great. But we'll talk about him in a second. So Lombard, he's a shortstop. He is very young. It's one thing to remember about him. So he was basically the youngest player eligible for that draft. He was 17 years old, I believe, when the draft occurred, had just turned 18 in the beginning of June. And he doesn't turn 20 until June, whatever his birthday is, June 2nd of this year. So very, very young, even younger. It says his age, today's his age 20 season. It's basically his age 19 and a half season. And last year goes to the full minors, one of the youngest players playing in low A, and his stats are bad, basically. He wasn't very good. He stole a bunch of bases, but didn't really hit for any power, didn't really hit for any average, struck out a little bit too much. My kind of stat line after the season was like, okay, well, there goes another first round pick, right? But, you know, a couple of things to remember. One is he was still very young. Two, low A is about as hard as it's ever been right now. There's kind of two reasons for this. One is just like general pitching innovation. Pitchers are going to pitching labs and everybody's throwing hard and everybody's a killer breaking ball, and it is way more competitive than it used to be. And so if you're a kid who's been playing in high school and you haven't seen that many reps and you might be really talented, but you've been facing maybe, you know, 1 out of every 10 pitchers you face is even like a Division I college level pitcher. That's like a buzzsaw to go through. And they put Lombard right there, and he didn't hold his own. The other thing, though, is if you read all of the end of the season write-ups about him, so all the Baseball Americas, Baseball Prospectus, Fangraphs, they all do a write-up, and they all said basically a similar thing for Lombard, which is he was better than his stat line. Which is just something to keep an eye on. He goes, well, his swing was a little bit out of whack, but he looked really good by the end of the season. The Yankees promoted him, even though the stats weren't there. And we were really impressed with him. Which is just like one of those things where you go, if everybody's repeating this, the way that these things are written is people just kind of ask every scout they can talk to in the league. Yeah. What do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? They try to find guys from outside the organization, and they come up with some information. Also that he was a really good defender. So he was playing pretty good shortstop, looked like a major league shortstop out there. And then spring training happens. And the thing that to me was most striking about spring training for Lombard, one is the Yankees treated him like a major league player. Right? He was 19 years old. He was playing a lot of games. He was in the clubhouse. He was on TV. He was being highlighted. Hits a bunch of big home runs. And he just physically looks bigger. Like if you just compare Lombard a year ago when he was 18 to now, like he looks like 5 years older. He just bulked up. And to me, that is really telling. He is not Anthony Volpe's size. He's like 6'1", 6'2", looks like he's about 200 pounds. He's just a big, strong dude now. And then he starts, you know, pushing home runs opposite field, you know, to the gap, right? Like it is to left center. Like he is looking good. So then he goes to high A. He is basically, I think, the third youngest player at high A right now, or was before the promotion. I think he had one plate appearance against a pitcher who was younger than him. The typical pitchers in high A are 23 years old, right? So you're talking about guys who are just way more experienced than him, and he goes there and he just kills it. He has great stats. He's batting well over 300. He's striking out less than 20% of the time. He's walking more than he struck out. Not hitting for a ton of power. 1 home run, 8 doubles, 1 triple. 1 home run, 1 triple, 8 doubles. He's holding his own in in a challenging environment. I was not expecting a promotion. The Yankees just announced that they're promoting him to Double-A, so he'll start playing tomorrow at Double-A. He will be by far the youngest, I believe, the youngest hitter at Double-A, at least in the Eastern League. I think there's probably one player within 2 years of age of him. I mean,
that's amazing,
right? I mean, we're talking. He went from being like a year younger than the hot young prospects of high A to being 2 to 3 years younger than the hot young prospects of Double-A. He's on the same timeline as Jason Dominguez. Volpe was I believe, a little bit older, but Volpe also lost a year to COVID, so it's not really comparable. So they're pushing him hard, and it's very un-Yankee-like. So the Yankees traditionally, there's like times when they start promoting people. So usually there's like an evaluation in late May. And in late May, you see a bunch of promotions. And they just said, well, May 4th, let's do it, right? Let's promote them. I'm going to be watching very closely, because now we're talking about like top prospects in baseball timeline. Baseball America, after spring training, moved him from, I think they ranked him like 90th overall prospect in baseball coming into this year, which was a really aggressive ranking for them, considering how bad his stats were last year. And now he's 32nd best. And that was before he did all of this hitting. So there's going to be a mid-season ranking from Baseball America, where they rank the top 50 in baseball mid-season. I suspect you're going to see him top 15. I mean, that's now we're talking about, Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez level prospect, or even better. If he performs at Double-A, he could receive a promotion to Triple-A by the end of the year. I would not be shocked if he lights it up at Double-A. And we still haven't seen him hit for a ton of power, so I'm not really sure this is likely, or it's a very remote possibility. I honestly don't think a call up this year is out of the question. It has been done before. Like, players this talented get called up, especially if the Yankees needed a third baseman at some point, or a second baseman at some point. We're still far away from that. He still has to master Double-A. We're still talking about a very experienced player, but top prospects get called up when they're 20 all the time. And they get called up with relatively little experience in the high minors. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Mike Trout got called up at 19. He was awful. Then he should have won the MVP at 20. Bryce Harper got called up at 19 and was pretty good. And then was MVP level a year later. Then other guys, they took a couple of years. A-Rod got called up at 18, I think, and was really bad. I think he was 20 when he finally broke out. So like, these things can take time even for top prospects, but like, I want to prepare people that this could happen very fast if it's going to happen. I also think more likely than that is now he starts putting himself in a position for next year. And that comes back to your Anthony Volpe question. So Lombard Jr. has been a shortstop. He's been a good shortstop. As far as I can tell, scouts are already talking about him as a third baseman. He's bigger and taller than a typical shortstop, and the Yankees have a Gold Glove shortstop, and so they don't need Lombard Jr. And so I think the thing you really want to look for is, do they start playing him at third base? If they start playing him at third base, then they're preparing him for that spot. And as soon as he starts being an option, then you're kind of hamstrung. Like, you can't go get like Nolan Arenado, because that's a 3 or 4 year commitment. And you have nowhere you could play your top prospect, George Lombard Jr., who could be a top 15 prospect in baseball. So at some point, like, basically the Yankees have to make a decision. Is it Lombard, or do we go get somebody, or do we get a stopgap just for this year? Do they have like a spring training competition next year? Kind of like they did with Anthony Volpe, between Cabrera and a few of and Lombard Jr. and some veteran they bring in, right? Like, to me, these possibilities start getting really interesting now. And everything I've read, like I've heard, there are a lot of people who are glowing about Lombard Jr. right now. People who are not Yankee fans, like people who follow prospects for a living are now talking about him like one of the best prospects in baseball.
All right, so that sounds exciting, right? If Lombard makes it with the aggressive timeline you're talking about, the Yankees infield next year could be Ben Rice, Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, George Lombard, and Austin.
That's incredible,
Wells.
right? Isn't that incredible? I mean, Rice at first. I mean, you're talking about a very fun team at that point, and a team that when you start like clearing some of these bad contracts out, then all of a sudden you go, wait a second, you're got a lot of guys you're not paying that much. You could, very realistically look at, Kyle Tucker or something. Go down and spend $500 million in Kyle Tucker for that you're going to have a bunch of these guys who are pretty cheap. So I think it's kind of exciting. By the way, we have another run on the board. So it's the end of the sixth inning
from a guy we were just talking about.
Goldschmidt singles. He steals second base. The ball gets by. He advances to third base, and then Volpe hits a sac fly. Really, really fun move. This team. This team is more athletic than they've been in a while, and it's fun to watch. And Lombard Jr. would only make that more athletic. He stole a lot of bases in the minors. He already has 11 stolen bases this year. The Yankees are more aggressive in the minors than you might think. Like, Spencer Jones stole like 40 or something. Like, guys who you probably don't expect to steal a ton in the majors. But he's getting the practice basically, and maybe he could steal 20. Next to a bunch of other guys who could also steal 20. So pretty cool.
EJ, I think we're going to wrap it up here so I can watch the end of this game because I have to do the game summary on Start Spreading the News, and it's always tough to do it from the ESPN game thread.
Yeah, I'll say I'm going to go watch too because I want to see Carlos Rodon in his last inning. It's going to be kind of fun.
It's good. It's been great. EJ, thank you so much. Again, everybody, remembering our good friend Mac McGrath, who left this world on Saturday. God bless to Linda. And, you got to all know that Mac's in our hearts. We wish everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here again live next Monday night at 9 p.m. Let's go Yankees.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast, followed at night by some hot